Hello and welcome to the Indie Dog. I'm your host, Radha Thomas. There's something about the street dog community that feels like one belongs to a very special, very loving, very intimate family, even if you've just met someone. You can tell just by the work they do in rescue or rehab, fostering, healing, or even fundraising that the connection is strong. Some months ago, my niece Arundhati Krishnan asked me to come to a puppy adoption camp run by Onisha Majumdar, who is a little buzzing dynamo. She runs an organization called Indie Tales of Hope. She's been on the Indie Dog before. Onisha had gathered a bunch of squealing puppies from all over the city, and they'd been brought there to the center of town by the canine squads from their area. And they'd done this so that the puppies could get adopted. It was there I met an adorable puppy named Snow and his human Elvis. Could be this human's name and my connection to music, or it could be just that Snow jumped on me and started kissing me like I was his best friend. But anyway, the human started talking. I tried not to fall in love with Snow because, I have enough street dogs at home. Elvis told me that he belonged to the Electronic City Canine Squad, and since I don't really go to Electronic City all that much, I was surprised. It's a glittering, glitzy, high-tech area of Bangalore and calls itself India's answer to Silicon Valley. I didn't think such areas would have streeties running all over because it was so very posh, but I was wrong. Elvis and his friends had rescued, fed, spayed, and taken care of hundreds of dogs. The fact that corporate bigwigs in the area, companies like Infosys, Wipro, TCS, and many other organizations, didn't think it was their responsibility to get involved in street dog issues in the city struck me as odd. I wanted to talk to Elvis, but he instead told me to go straight to the leader, straight to the top, the boss, the man who made all things possible for streeties in Electronic City, Paul Goswami. Hi, Paul. Welcome to the Indie Dog.
Thank you for inviting me here.
So, Paul, are you the boss of the Electronic City Dog Squad?
Not like that I run it exactly. I just started a little before my team.
From what Elvis said, you have a very organized, streamlined, systematic kind of structure for the canine squad. Can you describe it?
We have kind of a corporate setup, kind of. We have divided everything into many parts. As one person, we are three people, those who are completely into field rescues, right? Whenever we get a call, the maximum the calls are routed to us. Me, there's one more person called Elvis and Avinash. So we three completely go into the field rescue.
A clear and unambiguous demarcation of roles.
Then we have one person called Anil. So Anil is our finance guy. So he kinds of keep a track of all the collections. As you already know that the collections, the amount vary from 100 rupees to thousands, right? 50,000, 60,000, whatever it is. So, and we have kind of tie-ups with the hospital, not exactly tie-ups, but we get a concession in hospitals. So all the billing records, discounts, how much payment has been done, what's due, everything is taken care by Anil.
That's wonderful. An actual real accountant. I know how hard it is to keep track of things in my own tiny case. What you get from so many people and what you pay out, I sometimes feel like I'm running a company.
The next person we have Namrata, specifically Namrata. She completely is dedicated on fundraising. She raises funds for all our cases, and she does most of the coordination when there's a need.
Like a fundraising call center almost.
And then we have one more lady called Shweta. So she basically looks after the ABC program here.
If it's your first time on this podcast, ABC is Animal Birth Control. Wow, that's really impressive, Paul. In many other squads, one person does all of this, so it's very heartening to see this kind of organization and order in animal rescue work.
As you know, Electronic City doesn't come under BBMP zone, so we have to fund for our own.
Well, yeah. Even in places where the BBMP is supposed to take care of the streeties, they don't really do it. So citizens all over the city are stepping up and opening up their wallets. So, Paul, how did ECS get kicked off?
It simultaneously happened actually. If you see, when I started rescuing nearly about 8 years back, I was kind of a lone ranger when I started.
Waiting for Tonto to show up?
As I was the one to pick up cases, transportation, fundraising, A to Z.
So, how did the others appear?
Ma'am, it all started basically, it's kind of like a network that happens. You start rescuing one case, and then a next case come in, your number gets passed on to the other person. He reports that you do that, and it's kind of a chain, right? That forms. And in Electronic City, I am the kind of the go-to person for Electronic City as of now.
I guess word's gotten around and it's spreading like a virus.
Not really.
I'm joking, of course. This is a good virus. But tell me more. How did the dog rescue and all that stuff start?
Ma'am, I started with one person called Rohit, I would definitely give him the credit for me what I'm doing as of now. When I started, I had no clue. So he was the one who guided. He was one of the oldest person in Electronic City trying to do whatever he can. Right. And then from one, it became two, and we collaborated. We did things on our own. And simultaneously, we formed many groups, to be honest.
I understand. It's a process. It takes time, trial, and error to find the perfect team. And then team members start changing from time to time, I mean. It's organic until it eventually settles down.
Yeah. Finally, then one group formed, and then people started joining.
So when did this final supergroup happen?
If I say that the maximum, the output, or probably the highest efficient group started with 3 years back.
3 years ago. That's when lockdown happened.
Just before lockdown.
You know, lockdown seems to have changed a lot of things for street dogs, and mostly in a good way.
So, ma'am, lockdown was the time basically when I networked with a lot of people. I came in contact with a lot of people. We started feeding in my area because I stay near Vipro. So that area is completely full of like food joints and eateries and things like that. They're basically restaurants. And there are a lot of dogs which are dependent on the restaurants. Once the lockdown happened, this dog had no source of food. So we targeted at around 50 dogs to be fed. Right. And then we started cooking at our house. 3 to 4 people we cooked food, took turns, cooked food, went for feeding once a day. And then slowly, when people saw us feeding and people started connecting, and then I would say thanks to
Manjari Chaitanya, that woman is amazing. She needs a statue built for her, I think. So she helped you?
She started a kitchen at one of the pubs in PTM, with collaboration with QPA also. Sanjana Madhapa also joined.
What a wonderful and practical solution to use capacity that's laying unused.
When I started with 50 dogs and then we started feeding, word got around that in Electronic City somebody is feeding, right? And then Manjari got in touch with me. She offered to help. He said, we are running a kitchen, we are cooking for nearly about 5,000-6,000 dogs and things like that.
Wow. You know, I've been trying to talk to her about the work she does in Lalbagh, but 5,000 dogs?
I would say 5,000-6,000 would be a lesser number, but later on it increased to a huge, probably at least close to 7,000 to 8,000 to 10,000 dogs every day. So,
you know, it's hard to imagine, it's hard to fathom that all of you who've got other jobs, by the way, got together to do this spectacular work to feed dogs. So tell me what happened. How did it progress?
After around first 1 week, 10 days, we started covering entire Electronic City. So we were around feeding 500 to 600 dogs every day during the lockdown. If you see the volume of food, we literally got around 170 kgs of cooked food every day.
I bet special ops had to be devised to deal with the volume of dogs and food and transport and cleanup and so on. How did you manage it?
So what we did was when people joined us in Electronic City, there are people from different areas. There are some feeders who came and joined us. Elvis is one of the person who I met him during the lockdown. right? He reached out to me saying he's feeding, he's that area. I said, okay, we are getting free food. Would you like to join? He says, that would be great, right? So that's how people joined. And there were like nearly about 10 feeders covering around 5 kilometer radius, right? And that's how the food used to come to my house, right? And then everybody used to come with buckets and they used to fill up the food and then they used to go during the evening time in their own areas.
And what about cleanup?
We used to carry newspapers, right? So we used to feed them and we used to clean it up after that.
So now that lockdown is over and things are mostly back to normal, has the operation kind of subsided a bit? The intense work at least?
Yes, the feeding numbers have come down. We have a couple of people who feed our community feeders, basically, right? So they're still continuing. We did not stop it at once because the dog were habituated of getting food for around 3-4 months continuously. So we slowly reduce the frequency. We made it every alternate day, then 3 days, 2 days. This is how we got down, and now they are back to normal with their own.
I guess they are now like regular street dogs. From wartime, it's like peacetime. So I suppose most of the work is now traffic accidents, injury, disease, and that kind of thing. How do you divide up the work these days?
We get a call or we get a text message with the video, location, and contact numbers. And then there's a BBMP group which is formed, right? So I'm a part of that WhatsApp group. So we get cases through that. So I get a case, and sometimes I will call them, what's the issue, and things like that. Then me or Elvis will take turns, we'll go and pick up the dog. After the dog is picked, entered into the hospital, then when Namrata starts working on it. So Namrata will start like coordinating with the hospital to enter the name of the dog, the details and things like that. The entire follow up, what is happening, how is happening. We have a WhatsApp group with the clinics, with all the core members into the team. We get daily updates. Once the dog is stabilized, right? And then we start looking for shelters because a long term treatment is not viable for us, not a sustainable model to be done in a private clinic. We move it to shelters, then we look for transport. Now, after that, then when then when Namrata comes into play, right? Namrata does it kind of end to end, I would say, but her major part is fundraising. So she will work with, there's one of our teammate called Debolina. She's very good in making PPTs and making posters and things like that. Then they both collaborate.
Very scientific and specific and efficient, and no one stepping on someone else's toes. And then?
Yes. Then we spread the word across, put it on our status, put it on different groups, put it on Facebook, we reach out to our contacts.
It's a very, very difficult job.
Namrata and Elvis are too good in finding fosters. That's not my cup of tea, finding fosters. And then they have a very good network of fosters who's kind enough to foster dogs without any kind of payment or anything. So that's a big relief for us.
That's excellent. So when exactly do you need a foster?
Fosters depends only when there's an abandoned dog or a puppy.
But what about an injured dog, for instance, that needs more attention?
Any trauma cases would go to shelter because they would need medical treatment.
I get it. So what happens when a dog goes into a hospital and say it recovers and then it's released?
Then Anil is the one, after the dog is released, Anil is the one who will check with the clinic, and he practically goes through the entire invoice line by line to check, is the discount applied, right? What is the total amount? Then all the fundraising transactions that we have a group. We urge people to put it in the group with the screenshot of the payment, whoever has done it. So he will maintain the transaction details of everything. Then he will work with the clinic to say, this is the monthly contribution which we have done it for this month. Can you please adjust it? So every month on 7th or 8th, he publishes a report saying that this is the collection happened, this is the outstanding, this is what we need to do.
Wow, that's really running a company, an e-dog company. I wonder, do you think that you're more clinical and specific about running this organization as if it was a corporation? Because most of you are men. I know the women listening to me are going to get pissed off, but I'm sorry I had to ask it. It just popped into my head.
It's not like that, ma'am. If you see in the core group, I have Elvis, Avinash, Anil, Mohit, and Rohit. We have 5 men, and we have Debolina, Shweta, Namrata, right? We have 3 ladies, and I would say it's the women power in the team.
Okay. I get it. I understand. It's an equal partnership. Actually, the ABC part of what you do must be massive for so many dogs. Can you tell me what Shweta does?
Shweta has taken up the huge project of completely looking after the ABC, animal birth control, right? So she takes care of the entire animal birth. So we have collaborated with Allied Rescues,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
And last year we did nearly about sterilization of nearly about 200 dogs. So the
Wow.
entire thing was coordinated and done by Shweta. Which area would they come to? How many dogs picked up? How many dogs released? So everything was. So we don't enter into their spaces. Otherwise, it will be for one person. It will be too overwhelming to handle everything.
Understood.
We always looked at people's comfort zone,
Yeah.
right? I'm more comfortable going out and picking up an wounded animal, but I'm not very great in finding foster or fundraising.
I get it.
Namrata is very good and very comfortable in doing that. Somebody is doing in finding fosters, or they do fostering.
Each
right?
person has their role.
So this is how. So people have come into their comfort zone and they're contributing what they can do. So nobody is actually going out of their comfort zone to do things. So that is how it all came to the entire thing. So they are actually doing what they're good at.
Figuring all of this out makes you a really good team leader, it sounds like. All this rescue work, though, it also breaks your heart, doesn't it?
To an extent, I've become immune. Every time we lose an animal, right? Or we have to take the hard call of letting the animal go, right? Putting them to sleep or whatever it takes, right? It takes a piece out of you. When I come back and see my dog, right, who is again a rescued, who is again an indie female, I'm proudly say that I am I'm a dog parent of an indie black female. The combination that which is never gonna get adopted.
Yeah, I've heard about this before from Sunita Vasnaik in Richardstown. She told me about this awful color bias in the indie dog world, and that black female dogs are the least likely to get adopted. Dreadful. What a horrible thing. Paul, I gotta ask you something else. How is it that last year you managed to raise 22 lakhs of rupees? Elvis mentioned this and I was so impressed. It showed me how single-minded and committed you guys are in Electronic City.
See, it's entirely on contacts and the work we do, right? So people would say that 22 lakhs would be when you say that 22 lakhs, people say, oh my God, 22 lakhs, how did you raise it? But I would like to say that to add on to this, we have rescued more than 130 animals last.
I guess it's all relative.
Right. So if you see, the average cost has comes down to somewhere around 12,000 to 13,000 per dog.
You guys are not using government facilities. You're using private facilities to take care of all your streeties. So I know it's not cheap.
And we did do that. And a major part of it goes to Namrata. Right. I would say she has shared nearly about 80% of I'm taking the 80% of the pain or the burden of taking it through.
Fantastic. She seems to be so focused to be able to deliver like this. So much money, that too.
It all happens through contacts, right? It's all about we have started structuring in that way that we have asked people to contribute a minimum of at least 200, 300, whatever it is in the group. We personally shell out from our pocket. The core group has a certain amount that from the core group we get 50,000. Everybody shells out minimum of 5,000. That's a mandate of the core group. We come into an agreement. And then there are people we go to fundraise. Some people ask their colleagues, ask their friends. And Bangalore has been very generous in this side. I would like to thank everyone who has contributed.
That's so nice to hear that. Shouldn't it be easy in a place like Electronic City? I mean, with so many big companies all around, to raise funds from these corporates?
Well, see, the main problem with the corporates is that a lot of companies do CSR, right? To an extent, have tried to reach out with a couple of companies. I don't want to take the names on air now, but they have done a tremendous work towards the cause, but somehow they feel they're not very comfortable and they don't feel for the cause that we are.
Do you think it's because you're not a registered NGO and you don't have a certificate?
Not kind of certification. It's very, people would like to contribute for children education, women education, cancer foundation, right? The corporates, they have the huge CSR activities they do. But to a certain extent, they're not very comfortable donating for animals. But I wish this thing will change slowly. I can see there is a huge change in attitude. People adopting a lot of indie dogs off late, which is, yeah, things are changing and I'm hopeful.
I get it. I get it. Makes sense. I mean, humans do come first, right? But Paul, all these corporates have huge big campuses, right? Plants and places to hide, etc. Are you saying there are no streeties on their campuses? They've managed to keep them out? You know, even the airport has a ton of streeties. So I find it hard to believe.
Not inside the campus, but outside the campus, yes. TCS has a couple of dogs inside the campus, and we made sure that the dogs are sterilized, they're vaccinated. So because very less dogs are there inside the TCS campus, but still there can be a huge chance of, there has been a couple of situations where there's a human animal conflict coming up. But yeah, till date they have been very cooperative in kind of not throwing the dogs out. But yeah.
Okay, I guess that's good. What about Infosys?
If you see the Infosys campus, there are 3 to 4 probably in and way out. They're heavily guarded by security guards, right? And you know that everybody entering Infosys campus or a TCS campus has to show the I cards. Probably the dogs that don't have the I cards, so they cannot come in.
Okay, I get it. The dogs can be stopped by these guards from going in. But what about outside the campus? What about outside the gates? Aren't there dogs out there? These people can see it, right? When they're coming and going in their fancy cars?
They are generally outside. So you would see a lot of dogs sitting just outside the campus because there are a lot of animal lovers who do feed them. And just in front of the campuses, you'd see a line of eateries and restaurants. So that is kind of their area where they get food. So they are definitely there outside.
It seems to me, Paul, that you should send this podcast to a few people at Infosys and Wipro and TCS and any other big company there. Because street dogs are everyone's problem. And these companies can easily take up some of the financial implications of the dogs around their campuses. I mean, you're doing all the hard work. I know that the people at the airport have actually hired CARE, Charlie's Animal Rescue Center and Sudha Narayanan, to fix the issue for them. So I'm saying if corporates get involved, we can actually tackle this problem for Bangalore.
That is when I think that we need to educate people and we need to push this cause, because to a certain extent, people think that responsibilities are only limited to humans. Unfortunately, they are still not open that we have a responsibility towards the other living beings also, apart from humans. So till they don't understand that, it's still a difficult cause. I still give them the benefit of doubt with the corporates, is because there are 2 things that I have seen. First of all, the idea that we try to put in, saying that probably why don't you fund animal welfare activities and things like that. People are very shy to put in this kind of request into the organization first. If any employee, if I tell you and go and tell them, hey, your organization is doing CSR, can you help us for a cancer? Can you help us for women education? They'll no doubt go and try their best to get it done. Moment we say animal welfare, people shy out. I don't know what is the issue. Second thing is that we are not being able to get to that top of the pyramid of the decision making, where we can at least reach out to them and they can make a decision here. So sometimes these are the 2 main factors which I believe is still there's a gap between these companies coming up and doing things.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, Electronic City is India's shining example of what the future can be for this country. I'm sure they don't want a future filled with packs of roaming hungry dogs and rabies and poop all over. We need to spread the word for sure. That's one of the main reasons for this podcast. And there are so many of you in the community in Electronic City. Actually, how many of you are there? And how do you divvy up the neighborhood?
As of now, we have nearly about 50 plus people in the Electronic City group. Though I could say not all of them are active, hardly I would say 10% of them are, right? But still, they want to the dogs to be sterilized. That's where we have come into terms in a common ground. So probably if I am from Electronic City near Vipro, so every time probably we have fundraised 1 lakh of rupees. Just giving an example, right? 1 lakh of rupees we would say that we fundraise. Then we would say that out of which, if they are doing 100 dogs with 1 lakh of rupees, we'll divide 25. Okay, Elvis, you are there. This is your area. This is your responsibility. When the catchers come, when the people come, they'll pick up the dogs.
Wait a
Make
second.
sure.
You hire private catchers, right? Like who?
Last time we did it with Alai. Now this year we have been doing with Cupa.
You know, it seems to me that you've been keeping this thing together like a finely tuned machine.
I am 10,000% sure I won't have been able to do it alone. It's not me. I've just come as a representative of the team, but the entire credit goes to my team. Without them, I'm so lucky to have people who are so strong, which are really going above and beyond their capacity to do things. And I would say I'm very lucky to have a team like this.
Oh, that is so sweet of you to say. Now, what about the dogs? Are they sweet? Meaning, have you been bitten by the dogs?
So I have been bitten by dogs. I keep a count, by the way. I like to, because I have been born and brought up with dogs. So in my childhood, I've been bitten by dogs 3 times. Right? That's my childhood. But I have been bitten by dogs in rescues 7 times.
Ouch.
And I have once got bitten by a rabid dog also.
And you live to tell the tale. Well, I'm not trying to minimize the danger of rabies, which is deadly. I mean, literally, you will die.
I didn't know that the dog had rabies, but it was a rescue. It was a small pup, Labrador pup, which was abandoned, right? Who came in treatment for parvo, and the clinic reached out to me saying that there's a dog, they cannot take care of it. I just requested the person saying that, can you keep it for 2 to 3 days? Just I need to find a foster. And I didn't know the dog had parvo. Right. And later on, when I reached out to the clinic, the person was not taking my call. I reached out to the clinic and asked them, hey, Dr. Ajitesh, what happened to the dog? He said, they went away. They didn't contact you. I said, they did. Then I had to ask one of my friend to call them because they were not responding to my calls. He pretended to be cops. He could speak Kannada. Then they put pressure on the person, and he said, I left that dog on the road near the temple. So at night around 9:30, me and one of my friend frantically just went to that area and searched. And the poor dog, it was raining that day, was taking shelter near the Sai Baba temple in Garepalya, right? Underneath a tree, drenched in rain, shivering. Picked her up, got her treated for parvo, right? Then I moved her to a foster. Foster, it was kind of in foster come adoption. It was just a 3.5 months old puppy. Then she started showing symptoms in aggression all of a sudden. She bit the foster parents. She bit the driver who went to pick her up. She bit half of the staff of Cessna team. She bit me also. Right, and then the dog died after 2 days. We had to give the sample for an autopsy, the brain sample. Then the rabies came positive, and then the entire wave started. We had to go. We took immunoglobulin shots and things like that. But people need to understand.
What a terrible story. I do hope that everyone got shots, all the people who got bitten.
Yes, everybody who got bitten. We even did some rabies titer test in Nimans and things like that. So I'd like to tell you one thing is that yes, not every dog bite is a rabid dog bite, right? And I came to know it after I got bitten with a dog is that there are first degree, second degree, and third degree bites in medical terms, what they say. A third degree bite Basically, rabies is when the saliva of the dog, that again under quotations I would say, not all the saliva inside your mouth would have the rabies, the germ, right, the virus, right, rabies virus. Rabies virus saliva comes in contact with your blood. It has to be a puncture wound, the third degree bite, where the dog's canine is completely inside your thing. And that too, that saliva has to come in contact with you. That is what we say, that a first thing you need to do when you get bitten by a dog is to wash your wound with running water. Second thing is that you should wash it with antiseptic. If not, then alcohol works good, right? Third thing, never cover the dog bite wound. You should never cover it, and then you need to go and take anti-rabies injections. We, the people who go to rescues, I kind of take it at least a year or two every time I get booster dose for rabies injections, because we work with the animals.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope everyone in your team is also getting shots.
Yes. And not only me, everybody who's in the field, Elvis, Avinash. Avinash recently rescued a dog. He got bitten twice with the same dog. So, so every rescuer, it's kind of the medals that we get.
Yeah, it's a medal of honor. You know, I've never been bitten by a dog, but I think that's because I'm so sweet. I'm just kidding. I don't do any kind of dangerous dog work. I don't go out in the field, and I only deal with the dogs that I know. But I suppose anyone can get bitten by any dog, right?
Yeah, it's sometimes what happens is that you never know. It's see, when you rescue a dog, a friendly dog is always difficult to rescue. From my opinion, I would say, because you never know what he does the next moment when he snaps. You know a dog is aggressive, right? Then you are well equipped mentally, physically, that okay, that dog is aggressive. I need a net to pick it up, right? So if the dog is just lying, he's friendly, you just go and pick him up. He'll not do anything. The moment you put him in the car, he'll give you that shot in your hand. So I am more conscious when I'm picking up a friendly dog than an aggressive one.
That's good to know. Appearances can be very deceptive.
This is the best part about something, is that an aggressive dog who is aggressive, they see the aggression comes from the fear of unknown, right? They don't see a street dog will. There's like 99.9% chance a street dog is never petted in their entire life. They don't know what's love, what is. The moment they see a human, they'll try to run. It's that they're scared of us, right? So when you pick up a dog, like when you kind of pick up a dog, they don't know for what reason you've been picked up. You're already in pain, lying there helplessly, and they always think it might be a predator or something who is trying to overpower me and trying to harm me. And the best part is when that dog calms down after 2 to 3 days of treatment, he lets you pet, he lets you do everything, and then after treating, you leave the dog back in the same place. The eyes, the behavior, and the thing. And that when you pass down that road and sometimes you see that dog, you build up a relationship, you call him, then the wagging tails and then wet nose, that is something yes. That is a thing that keeps us motivating to do more and more things.
Oh, yes, that wet nose. It's worth more than any bite in my doggy book. That was Paul Goswami from the Electronic City Squad talking about their razor's edge organizational skills to raise money, feed, and rescue dogs. Thank you so much, Paul. And oh, also, thank you, Elvis, Anil, Avinash, Namrata, Shweta, and Debolina. Before I forget, if you're wondering about Snow, the puppy I mentioned in my monologue, he's been adopted by Avinash and will now live happily ever after. That's dog speak for did you know? Well, did you know that the canine squads were first set up by Priya Chetty Rajgopal a few years ago? Because she realized that taking care of street dogs is a local, or as she says, hyper-local issue. She feels that if each person who loves streeties tries to help a dog in their own street or neighborhood, the problem can soon be solved. There are some 20 or 25 canine squads already in the various neighborhoods, besides Electronic City. There's Alsur, there's Indranagar, there's Frasertown, there's Hennur, there's Jainagar. The list is long, but I'm sure there's a squad near you. So how do you join a squad if that's what you want to do? Type www.bit.ly/squad join and you'll be taken to a simple and easy to fill out Google form. Once you do that, the admin will check you out and welcome you to the dog rescue and rehab community in your area with open arms, and then your life will never be the same again. It's a very, very good thing. Well, that's it from me for now. Until next week, woof.